In this video, we are going to focus on components, workflow, and assets in Adobe XD. Once you master these three areas, you are going to be not just more effective, but you are going to be more organized and better at creating content on this platform. So stick with me and we're going to dig deep and we are going to be ready to go. Hey everyone, this is Michael Cohen, the Tech Rabbi, and welcome to another technology tutorial. In this video, we are going to focus on these three areas of Adobe XD that, like any Adobe product, when you understand how to organize your design space, you are effective and efficient at creating, and then you can focus on the creativity and the joy of building and designing. So the first thing we're going to focus on is the components. Where do you find your components, you ask? Well, it is over on the left side here. Make sure you are in the design versus the prototype, although it shows both. I find that when we are effective at creating, we want to make sure where we're at, and when we're ready to prototype and build, we want to make sure where we're at. That was on the first video. Right now, we're going to just dig into these assets and these components. So the assets are your colors and your character styles, but it's the components that's going to be so powerful to start creating. And I'm going to show you some examples here. The first is the back arrow. And you see here that I labeled it back arrow. That's super important because when you're looking at your designs, when you're looking at your components, and it's component 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, where are you? You don't know, and it's frustrating to try to find things, especially if you're designing with the color white and trying to see that white design on the white backdrop. If I do in fact discover, because I actually haven't checked yet, if there's a dark mode with Adobe XD like the other Adobe software, which I'm sure there is, the next video you will feature this in dark mode because I absolutely love dark mode. So we're going to look at the components. Now, the components here, which is actually interesting, the back button that I've created here. So it's a component. And if I right click on any one of these, you'll notice that there's a difference here, and I'm going to talk about that. When you right click and you say reveal components, assets, right, fit back, there's all these things. Well, you have to discover that there is a master component. And if you start to delete things and you're not paying attention, it can be incredibly frustrated. So here, I deleted this little dot on this design. And I'm thinking, oh, it's a component. Then I actually pay attention. I realize, guess what? It didn't delete. The reason is because you have to right click and you have to edit your master component. If you go and you start deleting and messing around with your other components, Adobe XD is going to let you mess around with the duplicates because maybe there's a core component of your master component and then you have little nuances with each additional component. But if I actually go to here and I actually double click and then I delete, right? Check this out. Bam, it's gone, okay? If I go over to this one here and I double click and then I delete, guess what? Nothing's gonna change on the master or any of the other ones because it wants you to have a certain level of flexibility, but also the efficiency of being able to edit the master component. So if I go over here and say, you know what I really wanna do is that. Guess what? That's what's gonna happen. And so you're ready to go. So if you delete that, because you want it simple, you want it clean, you don't need it fancy, well then, sure enough, it is going to delete for all of them. Now over here, I have and here's another example right here, right? You mess around, you tweak. So if you copy your master component, you can then just literally Control V, just like you Control V in your word processing software. It's going to paste it exactly where it is supposed to be. So I have over here this design element, the home button, and I want this to be placed on all of the other screens. So I make a component, or shortcut is Command K on the Mac, and then I can just go here and I can just paste and paste and paste, and you just move across. And it's not too crazy. Now, if you had 100 screens, I'm hoping that you've created some sort of template. That's another workflow piece, is that you create your original template and then you duplicate the template screen, and then you move it if there's going to be design elements that are constantly there. And if you do that, it'll be super easy and super clean, especially when you look at, like, this top area is all the same. So if I click on this and it's just a minor difference in the next screen, your elements are going to be jumping around. That's just bad user experience, user interface design. People don't like that. They want the different objects of the apps they're interacting with to be there. Now, let's say I go over here, or I'm on screen 3, and I say, you know what, I want to edit this. So I go over edit master component. It finds the original. I say, you know what I want to do is I want to drop this down a little bit, right? Like, I want to do that, and then I want to go over here and I want to drop that down. Okay, I just feel like, no, oh, you know what, no, really, that was a mistake. So I just want to, like, move this up a little bit. Okay, but like that's good. Okay, I feel like that's good. So guess what? It did it for all of them. And I think that's just a nice, clean experience when we're looking at creating components. Now, when we're moving things around, that's not going to change, right? It's not going to, if you're looking at, your component instance, right? So you're able to, manipulate different components of it, but at the end of the day, if you're slightly moving things around versus if you're going over here and just simply editing the master component and saying, like, no, you really wanted it over here. Whatever you're trying to do, you just master components and templates are going to make life so much easier when you're looking at creating design. So a perfect example would be being able to make certain things components, certain things not components. Obviously, unique text that's not going to work, but you can also create character styles. And I think that was super helpful, where the title is going to be this and that, and you can go over here and you can actually click on that, and it's like, oh, moving, adjusting that, and you could change it, but in reality, you wanted it to be that super bold. Now, if you say, guess what, I really wanted that to be 40, so that's going to work for this one. But if you actually wanted to edit that and then change it and say, you know what, everything needs to be 32. So just be careful for your bounding boxes, but at the end of the day, it is going to adjust and initiate however it is that you've decided based on your character styles, your colors as well. If you decide, oh, you know what, this color over here just needed to be like a little bit darker, so guess what, it's changing that color. And so you're able to also edit colors quickly. Components, I said earlier, like, name your components, right? It's just easier to do that if you want to get rid of your components, right? If you want to, rename your components, headset, headphones, and just be able to organize things easily. Now, you don't have to make everything a component, but let's say over here, right? Or let's say I'm on this page here, and I say, you know what, I realized something. It's like, for whatever reason, let's say I want this to have like a nail, next to it or something. So I was like, okay, go over here, and we're pardon the design here. It's just sometimes I like to on the fly create. So you go over here and you're like, okay, so that's a couple nails. So you can go over here and you'll rotate that one. And then we'll go over here and let's say we'll rotate that. Okay, so let's say for whatever reason we needed some nails to really show that we're like prototyping. So guess what? You go over here and, oh, where is it? You say, oh, well, guess what? Here is one of the big pieces of designing with your components. So if you look over here and you double click on that, you want to make sure that it's actually in the component. And I can't stress that enough. Sometimes people are pulling their hair out because they didn't double click on the design, right? So I think that's super important when you're going through this process. You're like, well, I put it near it, or I clicked on it once. No, you got to double click it, and then you have to engage with the component. And then sure enough, we delete, and guess what? It's gone because I had double clicked it and I was working with the original component. Okay, so now I wanted to run through a couple workflow nuances, and this can be incredibly time consuming. If you look at all these lines, especially things like these progress bars, that could drive people crazy. So if you click on a component and you're like, I want this component to go somewhere, or I want this component to move. So if you click on the plus sign, okay, or you already have a destination created, as you can see the line here. So you can just go over here and you can click on the destination that you would like. And there's some really fancy triggers, but right now we're just tapping. The action, right, can have some components as well as you start to get sophisticated. But I think at the end of the day, the easiest and most powerful way to get through using Adobe XD is not getting overwhelmed with the little sub features. It's like, let's get the basic interactions. I want to create an experience where someone can create meaningful content and then I can interact with it. So if I click on this button, which I'll play it right now, okay? If I click on this right here, it's going to bring me to that level. And if I say, oh, you know what? I need to get to the home, right? So guess what? The home isn't clickable. Oh no, the home's not clickable. Don't worry, we got this. So guess what? The home. So same before, you click on that. What's your destination going to be? Well, in this case, it's going to be iPhone Artboard 1. And so I go over here and I can do iPhone Artboard 1, not Artboard 1 because I made this random artboard down in the bottom corner. So I just go over here and I'm able to now check that out. Okay, check that out. Hold on. Okay, now I just want to show you something here because I think this is super important. Okay, when you have a component, that component has hopefully a relationship with other things. And so if you set the artboard with the component, it's going to automatically do it. Or, okay, check this out. If I go over to this one and I go to the first one, okay, now doesn't work. So when you have components and you go to the original component and you choose the destination, it's going to do that for all of them. Now, if you have a component like, let's say this design over here, okay, so you just want to make sure that if you are, let's say you wanted to duplicate this circle element and the text, and you made this its own component and then duplicated it. So you just want to be careful because what could happen is that you start to have to waste time breaking apart every component to be able to say, well, even though I'm sharing a component here of this circle for each one of these screens, I want to be able to control the destination of each one of these and make sure that you set that up properly so that you just, it's all about planning and it's all about knowing what happens when you do things. So once again, original component, if you add a destination, it automatically sets it for all of them. And if you do it to one of the other components, it's not going to do that for all of them. And so sure enough, now I have my home button and it works now wherever I go. So that is, I think, a really powerful piece. So just to sort of summarize where we at, you create a design and then you right click on it, you can make it into a component, okay? You can then edit your components by double clicking on them and making sure you're at the original component and not the master component and not at one of the duplicates. If you set up a workflow of just being efficient and you click destination on the master component, it's going to do that to all of them. So just be careful how you are using your master components if those things are going to be clickable and interactive. We then discussed the way of renaming and organizing your components, character styles, colors as well, and then once again, some other features. But at the end of the day, that is the main focus of what it is that you're trying to set up. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I really appreciate if you would like this video, if you would subscribe, because we are always trying to create really awesome and valuable content for you. So thank you so much for watching.